All right, look, guys, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if everybody's going to be ready for this, but I need you to sit down and pay attention because this video changes everything. All right, we got potential proof that George Floyd didn't die from a knee in the back of the neck. I watched that video with everybody else, and you've seen my posts all along. What 12 minutes laying on somebody is uncalled for and absolutely ridiculous. But that doesn't make it murder. Now, as the evidence is coming out, it's important that we pay attention to what is actually happening. In everything that we're doing here, we need to make sure that these cops aren't being railroaded and that an innocent man didn't die. Okay? That's what needs to happen. We've got two groups that we need to satisfy here, and one is George Floyd and George Floyd's family and the people who are protesting and the people who are feeling that the nation is against them. These are legitimate concerns that we need to make sure as a country that that police are not abusing anybody and that they're not mistreating anybody. And that, I mean, these are all legitimate problems that need to be dealt with, right? On the other hand, this is a specific case in a specific instance. And misconduct is different than murder. And those are important to differentiate. Let's take a closer look at this footage and then you'll understand exactly what I'm saying here. All right, so the video that you're watching right now is George Floyd. This is when he first got stopped. You can see the cop coming up and he's coming up to the window, and as you zoom in on George Floyd, take a look at right in his mouth. Literally look at what is in his mouth on his tongue. You see that little white spot? That little white spot there on George Floyd's tongue, that could actually be the most important piece of evidence in the entire case. At least that's what the defense has to say. He's actually filed papers saying that that little white spot is fentanyl. All right, fentanyl that George Floyd ingested at the time when the police came up to the car. Okay, trying to allegedly avoid getting arrested for drugs. Take a look. You can see that little white spot on his tongue, and then it disappears when he turns around. All right, so the defense is saying that that's 2 milligrams of fentanyl, and that is actually responsible for the death of George Floyd. That it's the fentanyl and not the knee on the neck by Derek Chauvin. So when they look at the toxicology, we already know that for George Floyd had fentanyl found in his system. We already know that. This is not somebody dying from a knee on his neck and I can't breathe and 4 officers. Look, again, misconduct is not murder. I'm all for charging somebody that murders and they need to be in prison. But 2 milligrams of fentanyl? That's a whole different thing. The question at trial is actually going to be, what was the cause of death? Was it the fentanyl? Was it the knee on the neck? But here's the thing. At trial, the defense doesn't need to prove the fentanyl is what killed George Floyd. They don't have to prove that beyond reasonable doubt. They just have to prove that it's a potential way that George Floyd could have died. Prosecutors, on the other hand, they have to prove that George Floyd died from a knee on the neck from Officer Derek Chauvin. The defense just has to raise a reasonable doubt. They have to raise a reasonable alternative explanation to say that it might not have been. It probably wasn't. Now here's the thing. If you think things have been bad over the last few months since George Floyd died, if you think that the left is going to be happy, they're not. This is going to kick things up. This is going to kick things up a lot. This might be the biggest piece of evidence to come out in this entire case, and the attorney might be right. But here's the deal. They're not going to be happy about it. Be ready, America.